Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar and panel on navigating change through trust and transparency in your organization. We're really glad to have you here. Just to quickly introduce myself, I am Sara Gupta. I am the moderator for today's panel. A little bit about myself before we dive in. I'm a 20-year technology veteran, spending most of my career in sales and customer success for the SaaS software industry. Most recently, I became a founder myself and started my own executive coaching and consulting business focused on change management for individuals and companies. I'm really excited to be here today and lead this conversation with three amazing women founders. First, we have Emily DiGrazio, who's the founder of Indigo Creative. Then we have Kinjal Shah, founder of Global Maven, and Luz Gonzalez, the former founder of EQ Refined. We're going to dive in and get going on some questions right out of the gates. And as I hand it over to each founder, please feel free to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about you before we answer these questions. So as I introduced at the beginning, today's conversation is focused around the role trust and transparency plays in being a founder and growing your business. We're going to explore trust from a couple of different angles. The first angle being the role inner trust plays in the founder journey. And then the second part being the role trust and transparency plays in growing an existing business. We'll also get to talk a little bit about the individual founder journeys of the three women we have with us today. So the first couple questions are going to focus on the inner trust and the role that plays in founding a business and that initial founder journey. So I'm going to put this first question out to all three of our panelists. Since all three of you are founders of your own businesses, tell me about your personal journey of entrepreneurship and specifically the role inner trust played in your success. Luz, why don't we start with you?
Oh, thank you so much, Sara. Hi, everybody. My name is Luz Gonzalez, the founder of EQ Refined. And I named EQ Refined that because what I recognized was my skill set was based on emotional intelligence. And 20 years ago, that wasn't a conversation that was being had. And I want to point that out because they often say that the jobs of tomorrow have not even been invented. And it depends on you to cultivate your skill set and your abilities to create these organizations for tomorrow. Now, regarding building personal trust, like I said, I was a chameleon. I was changing who I was. I filled the role of customer service. I'm actually doing also a little bit of customer success, like Sara mentioned. I did real estate. I knew that one thing connected everything, which was people service, heart-centric. It had to be involving active listening. And when I was connecting active listening with the individual I was communicating with, I was able to connect them to their need. And that's very important as an entrepreneur. You have to learn how to build relationships. And in building relationships, you have to listen and then deliver. So in creating inner trust, I had to really recognize what were my core sets of skills. What did I do naturally? What did I do when I didn't have to do anything? I think that's key. And what did I gravitate toward? What filled me? Now, just because you have a passion in it does not mean that it's going to come easy. That saying of 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, that is really true. You don't build muscles overnight. It really takes time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Why don't we shift over to Emily and tell us a little bit about your early journey in entrepreneurship and your exploration of self-trust in that journey?
Sure. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say thank you again for hosting this event, 3-Day Startup. It's really awesome to be a part of it. I've been tuning in and out all day and it's been really great. It's been sort of like running on in the background. So I'm definitely really happy to be here and thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, so my journey started a few years ago. I actually went to school for business. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I just kind of generalized, which is it is what I recommend for people who aren't quite sure what their path is. But I got a job out of school working for a digital advertising agency. And from there, I, really went into marketing, and I sort of discovered my passion for design, just kind of working through, client projects. And I was like, you know what, this feels really good. This is what I want to do. But I had this sort of like imposter syndrome because I kept thinking like, I didn't go to school for this. Is it possible for someone like me to, kind of put everything else to the side and dive into something new, something I hadn't explored yet? And so that was a moment where I was just like, you know what? I have to trust myself. Nobody else is going to tell me to take this leap. I might have had like really supportive family and friends, but ultimately it was up to me to say, you know what? I'm going to take this leap of faith. I'm going to explore a career change. And I really want to specialize in what it is that makes me feel most alive. So that is how I came to founding my own business, Indigo Creative. And I really felt like through this whole experience, I've been able to sort of let go of people's expectations of me and just forge my own path. And it's such an empowering experience to be able to do that. And I recognize how fortunate I am to be able to do that, right? But I would not have done that if I didn't have that moment where I said, I need to do this. Like, I need to stop dreaming about it. I need to stop going home every night and complaining about, my job. Like, I need to do this because it's such a relatable struggle. And once you do, you feel great. So that's what I sort of like hope to embody. And I really hope that other people feel inspired to do the same.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to circle back to a few things you said in a second. I want to get to Kinjal and get her answer. But I definitely, you hit on a few key words and concepts that I think everyone's going to want to dive into more. So let's shift over and then we'll come back to everyone and go a little deeper on this topic.
Definitely. Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for having me here. And it's great to be with everyone over here. So I'm Kinjul, and I started Global Maven, which helps innovators and companies in converting their innovative ideas into complete products. So how I do that, it's by providing design and development services in embedded and software applications. I started my journey through working for another company, but I always knew, being from an entrepreneurial family and a family who loves to do what they want. So I wanted to start something of my own. And that led to me working for something in technological field. I started my journey with, researching and planning, traveling to Israel and Taiwan, which are known for their technology, and did some research, some collaborations over there with Israeli partners. And then with those planning, I started working and strategizing for going global to Canadian market, where we were invited by the government to start our own startup, our own entrepreneurial journey. So I think 4 years back, I started over there working in Canadian market, and I was fortunate enough to meet various people, have new opportunities, have good clientele in motion control, diamond industry, and robotics, which I always wanted to work in. So robotics and AI was something that I wanted to explore more and bring my company to it. But over my journey, I realized that in order to make my dream big, so I need to set my foot in US market as well. So I started that 2 years back, during pandemic, and that was a hell of an experience, I would say. But but it taught me many things about, how empathy or transparency is important, where where you have to balance between timely deliverables and the team stability, right? So all those helped me we were fortunate enough to get good clientele. This all journey, it looks very perfect, but it's not at all. Everyone has those challenges, the same things where we are not sure where to start, or if I would be able to do it. So I had those thoughts as well. But I think I think there are intrinsic motivation that are important, where we need to believe in my strength. I believed in my values, and that motivated me. I strongly believe in something that when you want something, you can just have it. You can make work harder to get it. And I think that helped me in inner trust. So yeah.
So like a core belief system within yourself that if you put your mind and heart to it, it was possible.
Exactly. Because that gives you motivation every time you fall behind, or, you know, to just bring yourself up and work harder. So
you touched on something that I think is really important and is obviously, you know, part of the fabric of the 3-day startup program, which is, you said, I had multiple people help me along the way. I was fortunate that I met people. I can certainly speak for my own journey that when I reflect back, all the way starting in my college career through my actual early days of my professional career, I sort of described these little angels that showed themselves to me and helped me along my way. And I know that, like, had those people not inserted themselves in my journey, you know, the path could have been very different for me. So tell me a little bit more about the role that some of the people you've met along the way helped you cultivate inner trust along your journey.
Definitely. So when I talk that various people, they helped me. So it's not necessary and that they directly helped. So I had my mentors, I had my family and friends who were great supporters for me. And, you know, whenever I needed motivation, they were the people who helped them. Then I had my partners, my Israeli and Taiwan partners, who helped me in various skills, various technology that I always needed for my customers. And something that I always believe is networking is very important. So whenever you meet people, new people in different industry, you hear their stories, it helps you in embracing your journey and realize that you are not alone in your journey. Everyone is going, and you get that motivation from those as well. And apart from the professional, you know, help that sometimes it gets, but they also help in personal level some or the other way. So I guess every person and every woman who comes across me, they have their own inspiring journey. They have their own struggles, which they overcome to achieve what they want. So I guess these all people, they are everyone around, you know, us, they helped. And it's important to be surrounded by people or who are helping you, or who are your biggest supporter in one way or another, like directly or indirectly, right? So
So Luz or Emily, anything you would add to that in terms of your journey and the role others played in helping you when you had moments of self-doubt potentially?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to jump in. If you were in an elevator right now with a person who was pivotal to making your business take that next leap, do you know what you have to say to him in the next 30 seconds that would grab his attention and make him want to talk to you a little bit more? That's a key question. I've met various individuals in my life where they ask me, what do you need? And other than saying, I need this for my business or I need that, I need to be very clear in my needs, because it is called gaining buy-in with inclusive language. How do you communicate in a way where you're clear on what your needs are as an entrepreneur? That's very important. It will help you in years of valuable financial errors, creating all those mistakes, and it will set you on the right path toward equity, toward supporting you with putting the right players in place. Because if you get that little edge, that mentorship, that sponsorship, that next edge, then your business has that potential of expanding and exploding, scaling, basically. Or you can take another route where you're unclear and you're confused. And remember, every time you open your mouth, you're representing your business. You're representing your brand. Are you in alignment with your message and your brand and what your service or product is? I think it's very clear to know your why and to know the other people's why. So how do you gain buy-in from the people around you? Like you mentioned, Sara, the angels around you. And they're the people you least suspect. So it's so also important to create relationship. Message someone out of the blue on Women's History Month. Are you sending a popcorn, message? Hey, everybody, just was thinking about you. Here's a little something for you. Cultivate relationships around you just because, and you'll see how they become your champion.
I love that. So I'm hearing, Kinjal shared her inner belief in herself around, hey, I know that if I put my mind to something, I can achieve it. the other thing I'm hearing is, hey, if I'm really clear on what my needs are and have my eyes open around me, I can cultivate a network of people who can support my business in, unexpected ways. Emily, anything that you would add around your journey that they would kind of layer in on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually just attended South by Southwest, if anybody knows that conference in Austin. And I went to a keynote speaking session, and one of the women there, they had these little like mentorship power hours. And so we were all kind of gathered around these picnic tables, and the founder was kind of sharing her story and taking questions. And it was really amazing. It was a really cool opportunity. And one of the things she said that really resonated with me is, if you're looking for a mentor or you're looking to build your network, and you're also in the process of starting a business, one way that you can look at it is to kind of create your own board of directors. I thought it was so interesting. She mentioned the concept of having, somebody who you look up to, who they might not even know you, like it might be a celebrity. They don't have to know you, but if they inspire you, that's really all that matters. And they are in, the place that you see yourself in, or you admire something about them and you want to emulate that. So that's the first person. And then the second person in your board of directors is somebody in the same boat as you, somebody who's also going along this journey parallel to you. They may not even be in your industry. They may not be your age. They may have, completely different demographics from you, but they're striving to the same thing that you are, and they're experiencing the same challenges that you are. So I think it's really important to kind of like have somebody in your life who you can, go to when you're experiencing something, you're struggling with something, you want to celebrate a win, you just want to be there for somebody. And then the third person is somebody that you're taking along with you on your journey. So I'm really big on like inspiring the next generation of leaders. And I think it's so important to keep in mind that, yes, we want to lift ourselves up, but we also want to lift others up too. And so being able to kind of keep in mind that there are people that are going to be following along on your journey. And part of your duty as a founder is to make sure that, or as a leader really, that you are empowering others to become leaders as well. So I thought that really resonated. And so, yeah, just keep in mind, personal board of directors, you can't go wrong with the power of three. It's a really interesting exercise to also sit down and think about, who are those people for me, because you you probably do have them and you don't really realize it. But once you kind of get clear on who those people are, it helps you to stay really focused in your mission.
You touched on a couple of, I think, really important things there, which is a great segue into some other pieces, which is around one, purpose and focus, right? We've talked about self-belief. We've talked about, being audible ready and being ready to, always take advantage of those we come across in our day-to-day lives. And then we talked about this concept of purpose and focus as a means to ensure that we are surrounding ourselves with our greatest supporters, people we can learn from, and then people that we can help grow. So I love that. And I think it's a really interesting segue, which was the other piece I wanted to touch on, which is the other side of the coin when cultivating inner trust is those moments of self-doubt, and how do you all as founders navigate those, inevitable moments of self-doubt? So I think that Emily, your board of directors, I would imagine, can play a role in people you can call on and say, hey, I'm worried. Like, I would love to hear from you all on, when those moments arise, when you've caught yourself in the past saying, oof, I don't know if I'm capable. I don't know if I made the right choice. Am I over my head? Whatever it may be, where do you go when those emotions show up? Are there people or processes, rituals that you have to navigate self-doubt? Anyone want to go first?
I could go first. In fact, there's this really beautiful poem by The Secret, and I have it right here. If I could share it with you guys. I actually just posted it this morning, and it's The Secret. I promise myself. And it's, I promise myself to be so strong that nothing can disturb my peace of mind. Now, how do you do that? How do you move from the thought of nothing disturbing my peace of mind to actually moving beyond that, I'd like to ask a very critical question. Number one, can I pause? Okay, this thought is taking over right now. It's freezing me. It's making me fight, flight, fawn, freeze, right? Pause, number one. The second one, breathe. We don't know the value of breathing. Breathing is like a reboot. You know, when your phone isn't working sometimes and it's like taking forever, just turn it off and turn it back on. With breath, we do that. But the third most critical thing that I'd like you guys to take is, what if this thought were not true?
I love this one.
When you ask, what if this thought were not true? It instantly, energetically releases you from that space into a realm of possibilities. And that's growing your mindset, shifting your perception. But remember, this other area wants to grab you right back and say, no, it's true. It's true. Something like what Emily talked about, imposter syndrome. What if this thought were not true? Take another breath. And now ask, do you really want this thought, space, moment, person to control you? Now, if you use those 4 key steps, you now are letting go of a thought that isn't helping you, is not serving you, into shifting right back into that focus. What do you want to cultivate and create?
I love it. What an answer. What an answer. You reminded me of one of my favorite quotes from a mindfulness book called The Space Between Stimulus and Response is Where We Have Choice. You know, that's where mindfulness happens. That's where we get to choose where how and react.
Yeah, those thoughts, when you're in those thoughts, you don't have a choice. You feel you don't have a choice, but we're here to say you have a choice. And this is the exciting part. You know, we weren't having this conversation 50 years ago, like I said, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We have a choice. It's like, really have a choice that every decision you're making it either consciously or unconsciously. And now the choice is, I can decide differently.
Love it. I love it. Emily or Kinjal, anything you would add in terms of processes or rituals or places you go mentally to squash self-doubt?
Definitely. So I think I'll agree with what Lou said, and that was amazing. And along with that, it's very important to understand or to remind yourself about your own past achievements, be it small or big. You know, if I could do that, even I didn't know that thing, and I was able to do that, so I'll be able to do this thing as well, right? So I think that's very important. And it's very important to, you know, just stop, refresh yourself, analyze the situation, and then reframe your thoughts, reframe the self-doubts that you're having, and, you know, get that back in yourself. So, you know, work towards those, if that's because and I feel sometimes self-doubt is good as well, but in limited quantity, I would say, because that helps in introspection. So, and, you know, work towards your things that you want to work, right? So I guess that helps. Some things that personally help me are following my schedule, having my to-do list or my journal along with me handy whenever I want to. So that helps me really, and it helps me in at times of chaos. I can just look at it and, you know, assure myself, okay, I'm on my right track, even though there's a lot of chaos. And something that clears my mind and, you know, helps me in getting myself refreshed is working out or reading books and taking some time off for these mindful things as well, you know. Focusing on mindfulness and working out, because that helps you in having new perspective, thinking about other things, and, you know, getting a break from these thoughts. So these are some things, and it's important to embrace your journey. And as I said earlier as well, right, it's very important to see that you have come so far, and you can achieve all your goals as well, knowing your strength, your values. So it's important to remind yourself about it. And I strongly believe in gut feeling, instincts. So that's something that I believe it plays an important role. So
you said so many great things there, but I thought 2 really stood out to me, which is 1, the power of reframing.
Yeah.
Reflection and reframing. And I think that's so critical. And, kind of tangential to that, you talked about that sometimes a little self-doubt can be good.
Exactly.
That's a reframe essentially, but it's taking it a step down and saying, hey, like, this is my opportunity to learn, make myself the teacher and learn and grow, and not always, sometimes a positive, like a perpetually positive mindset can blur the reality, So
Yeah.
I really liked that framing. I think it was important to call out this idea that it's okay to doubt yourself, and that you can actually learn and grow and stretch yourself in those moments. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, learning is a continuous process, and that's something that should be taken in positive way. And that's what you said, right? So, yeah.
I love that. Emily, anything you would add before we move on here?
Yeah, I love this conversation. Kinjal hit it, I think, on the head. I actually just learned the reframing technique this morning during one of the sessions earlier. So it's really cool to kind of see it come full circle. But I actually just wanted to chime in with it's okay to go to therapy. I recommend that every business owner or leader or just anybody really can benefit from going to therapy, because I have learned that my self-doubt is so strong that my mind actually kind of lies to me and makes up its own narrative. And it feels like a betrayal, but it's so common and people don't really talk about it. And you can just kind of get down on yourself and say, oh, I'm negative, or this is just the reality. But it's not. I love how Luz said, you can change the narrative, you can tell yourself a different story and you can learn from that. So I think just being able to trust in your own values and trust that you know what's best for yourself, you will get through that. So yeah, again, huge advocate for therapy. It's okay to talk about it. I think anybody can benefit from it. And that has honestly helped me immensely as a founder.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I think that was such a powerful point. And I was kind of instantly reminded as you said this, going, gosh, the nasty C word of COVID has not yet come into this conversation yet. Amazing. But, if we're going to talk about one of the benefits, it's that we normalized so much around mental health over the last couple of years and really pushed that conversation to the forefront. And so I love that you raised that, because I think that's so important. That the thing you didn't kind of touch on there, but I think is inherent to the founder journey, is the pressure of building a business, bringing on employees, taking responsibility for others, whether it be your client's success or your employees, well-being. And that is a lot to manage. So ensuring that you are, taking care of yourself as part of that journey, and not just for self-doubt, but for all aspects of yourself is so valuable. So thank you for that. We're going to shift gears a little bit to talk about, once we have, moved out of being an early founder, we have a operating business, and we are now navigating the inherent, change that comes with leading a business and growing a business. It's the consistent saying of the only thing constant in life is change, right? So I would love to just spend a little bit of time talking about how we leverage trust within ourselves, like we've been talking about, but cultivating trust with our employees and our customers in order to grow our businesses. So with that, I would love to hear from one of you on the role you see trust playing in preparing your business for growth. Maybe Kinjal, I would love to hear from you on this one.
Definitely. Trust is important for bringing out reliability and security in any company, right? And I think trust comes from transparency. So I think it's very important to bring transparency, and that can be done by, having inclusive workplace. So how that can be done is in few steps, instead of saying only what needs to be done to your team, and allotting just their work. it's important to, make them understand your goals and why that particular thing or their task needs to be done, and how they can do it in beautiful way, in better way, I would say. So that's very important to make them inclusive, so that they believe, they feel the sense of belonging. And
Mm.
this sometimes lead to hearing out their ideas as well, and that can lead to some innovative ideas, I would say, based on my experiences, right? But how that can come is through feedback system. Like I personally have regular meetings or feedback systems that started with, I would say, some anonymous feedback system to gain their, confidence. And once they were comfortable, they were more one-on-one interactions, and that led to bringing out some trust in them. And they were able to share more about their ideas, or of their thoughts about the products, or the way the marketing, for example, was heading out for our company. So, and another thing that I think was very important was, it's to talk about the failures or the mistakes, not who was responsible, but what was the issue, and work towards that. And this gives them the confidence that it's okay to do mistakes or fail, but work towards them for the future. So
Yes.
so yeah, that leads to I've been talking about, that leads to everyone sharing their emotions. Usually leaders are, they are not able to share their emotions, as in the with the fear of looking or perceived as less authoritative. But I think it's very important to especially we just now talked about pandemic, right? But it was
Yeah.
very important that time. My personal experience, it was, everyone was struggling with their work life balance. And I think it was very important that I had some Zoom events that proved to be a good activity, I would say, where we all used to talk about things apart from work, not that's
Yeah.
not at all related to work. So that had that inculcated some sense of comfortable, they everyone was comfortable with each other, and it helped the company as well. So appreciation awards, and something that's very important, Anna, that I would like to touch here, it's
Yeah.
that we usually take workshops or conferences to be to be a part of the company, and just not focusing on whom to send. Yeah, but it's very important to give equal chance to everyone in your company, so that they even feel listened, and they feel that they are a important part, and they are able to leverage these conferences to upgrade their skills, and motivate them for future leaders. So these are small steps, I would, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, but I think taking some step by step at some and minor level, and then increasing it to a higher level of transparency, it helps overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ending that with something, I always tell my new managers that when they join my company, that we often hear everyone saying that my company, it's my second family. But I think it's very important to for them to understand that in my company, we need to treat them with same transparency as we treat our family members. So yeah, so I think
I
these
really,
are there.
I really appreciate a lot of what you touched on there. And what I liked is you talked about a very purposeful process for building trust, and creating that foundation, and that you recognize that that trust building needs to come from personal relationships and the personal ways that we interact with each other, and not just the um, delivery of a project on time, and that's not enough for building a true foundation of trust, that allowing people to be seen and for them to see you, is really critical to trust building. So I really love that. I did a little poll, so to speak, on LinkedIn that I think you all participated in prior to this conference and in this panel specifically, where I kind of, polled my network and the network of you all around, their perception of what founders can do to build trust. And what I thought was quite interesting is that a common theme across many of the responses was around commitment and accountability, and that was referenced, quite a bit independently from people. I personally spend, a good amount of my time, like my practice is largely dedicated to using trust as a mechanism to drive accountability and commitment within an organization to drive results. I would love to hear from you all around how you think about the intersection between trust and results, and how we get kind of commitment and accountability along the way. Kinjal, maybe we can start with you as a continuation of your response, and then we'll move on to Emily and Liz.
Definitely. Trust is a continuous process, and it requires constant commitment. It requires constant, working towards it. It's not like for one, for example, for one project, if you are, being transparent, you're describing everything, you're talking to your team about everything, but not for anything else. So even everyone can look through it. They are smart enough to, look through what you are trying to do, and that won't lead to any results, right? So it's a continuous process, and that takes time. So, and that's why, it's important to take small steps at a time. And coming to accountability, it's something, as I said, right, that it's important to make them feel that you are as human as they are. Yeah, it's okay to fail. It's okay. We as a leader, even we are facing the same issues, same as we talked about self-doubt, right? Or knowledge issues or whatever, right? We all are facing the same issues, work-life balance, right? And that helps them to relate more to you, and and helps that in productivity. So overall, when there's trust, there's transparency, it helps them to relate, it increases productivity of your company. So it's a win-win for everyone. They are happy and you're happy with the productivity.
That's like why I think it's such an interesting area that's, I think, largely underestimated, is this, way we can tie trust and transparency to actual KPIs in the business, right? And actually driving sales, driving, retention, whatever the metrics may be that, an organization is trying to achieve. There's data after data after data now that illustrates the connection between companies where there is high level of psychological safety, another term that we're hearing a lot now, right? And the connection to productivity. So, thank you for raising that. Emily or Luz, anything you guys would add on this topic?
I can chime in.
Go ahead, Emily. Yeah, perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. So Kinjal, I love what you said about sort of like, almost like leading by example too. Like, you want to instill trust in others. So like, you have to trust yourself. So I think like being vulnerable and like sharing in their struggles and just being human at the end of the day is the easiest way to build trust between people. I personally don't have full-time employees on my payroll right now, but I find that trust just within myself and between my clients is so important. And I've noticed a lot, like, I don't know if this is something that just women do or if this is, not gender specific, but a lot of times I feel like we don't trust ourselves enough to actually grow our business. So a lot of times, like if we have self-doubt, we might be less likely to take on projects that seem daunting, or it feels like, oh, I'm not, good enough to do this. Or so I would say to people who have that mindset, like, don't count yourself out. You will not grow unless you feel yourself going through those growing pains and like you feel that challenge. And that's really the only way to overcome that. Is to trust yourself, trust that you can do it, keep leveling up. And so that's kind of my takeaway there.
Awesome. I love that. Luz, what about you?
You said something really important. You talked about the intersectionality of trust and was it commitment or accountability?
Accountability.
And I'd like to say it's even more, multiple intersections. You have communication, you have intuition, you have really self-awareness, because there is a fine line between trust and micromanagement. And as an entrepreneur, you know how you want something, and you hire someone and it isn't quite how you wanted it, but we have to learn how to put our hands off of the design mechanism and allow that. There's a reason why we hired people to support us and work with us, because when we micromanage, then we're underhandedly telling them, we don't trust you. We don't trust your vision. So I myself am learning this, and it's taken me a while to learn it, because I have had a specific way I want my voice and my images and my content to be, but I also have to trust and put my hands off the steering wheel sometimes, that my team knows what we're doing. One tool that I would like to suggest for the audience out there is to create team norms, because when you start an organization, it's great. Everybody has a wonderful time. There's excitement in the air until that first conflict arises. How do you attain accountability if there hasn't been a set of rules or structure in which we can communicate? So how often can we meet? When can we speak? How frequently? Kinjal mentioned the anonymous surveys. How do we communicate when we do have some kind of uncomfortable, something uncomfortable that arose? So how do we communicate that to each other when sometimes, if you look at the statistics, people are conflict averse? So it's really important to create those team norms to support trust, to support relationships, to support clear communication. And lastly, intuition. We could feel there's something in the air. Are we willing to communicate and say, number one, is something up? And number two, yes, it is.
Oh, I love that so much. Now you're getting into you're speaking my language, Luz. One of the things I talk about a lot with my clients is this thing I call the coaching, or the trust ladder. And it starts with this foundation of trust. The first rung in the ladder is trust. You cannot pass go. You cannot climb the ladder if you do not have that first rung in place. But the second one is inviting healthy debate, inviting conflict, allowing for the willingness of others to, express their ideas, express their concerns, get their questions answered, allowing a space by which that debate can happen. And oftentimes that can be really hard at the founder level, right? People want to impress you. They want to, get everything right with you. There's so many social norms, to your point, in place around questioning authority at the top, so if we invite that conflict and that debate early on, allowing for actual healthy dialogue, then and only then can you go to the next layer of the ladder, which is commitment, right? And everyone stacks hands. They may not get the answer that they like, but they're said, okay, I got to ask my questions and I'm willing to move forward. We're in it together. And then you can move on to accountability and ultimately results, right? But if, to Kinjal's point, she brought up this constant renewal of trust, right? That's why I think of it more of a ladder than, a line, because you're often going to have to climb back down that ladder and rebuild trust, or open, the forum back up to debate, because it's, these are complex things that we're trying to solve for, and it's not linear. You don't just go forward and forget, like, great, we built trust once, we can move on. And
on what you're saying is, as long as everyone has committed to the intention of communicating clearly, and because what is healthy debate when you don't know it at home? They don't teach it in school. You were taught math, you were taught English, but you weren't taught healthy conflict or healthy brainstorming. Because if there's an alpha in the group and that alpha says, let's go this direction, then you have group think where everybody's like, yeah, that's a great idea. You have sometimes the introvert or the one who thinks differently say, let me stay quiet because I'm going to get outvoted. So we have to go back to the original foundation of commitment. Are we willing to communicate and recognize that people communicate differently? Not everyone speaks from the front. Not everyone speaks with a megaphone. You have the creative mind, the engineer thinker, the extrovert, the introvert, the ambivert. I'm one of those.
Me too.
Yeah. So it's great. And that helps you also have those listening skills. Are we listening to those ideas that could be different? Are we willing to go there? is it taking us off course, or is it just
Mm-hmm.
building it and making it even more unique?
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so true. I think on that point, a good follow-on question is, to all three of you, is what responsibility do you as the founder own in creating what you just described? I'll start with you, Luz. Like, if we're going to create this, culture, the way we do things around here, if we're going to create this culture of commitment and healthy communication and making sure every voice in the room is heard, whose responsibility is that?
It always starts with me, the leader, the creator, the organizer. And if I don't know how to do it, to Emily's point, get a therapist. You could get an in-house therapist, get a coach to come in and coach the people around you to get everyone at par. Let's develop our skills. And we already have our innate skills. Let's build the other skills that we don't know so well, such as communicating or trust building, because you can't move forward and you can't build up if the foundation hasn't been laid properly.
Yes, I love that. Emily, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. And just kind of what comes to mind to me is like the best way to, have others hold themselves accountable is to hold yourself accountable. So like I can think of like a dozen examples of times when somebody on my team or somebody that I've outsourced or who is partnering with me on a project kind of drops the ball a little bit, and you as a founder, as the leader or the person putting it together, unfortunately you have to be the one to kind of fall on the sword. It's a learning experience, but in doing that, you sort of are leading by example and showing people that, it's okay. We're going to take this in stride. We're going to address it head on. We will get through it. And I like how Kinjal earlier had mentioned, like, we don't have to necessarily call it like who made the mistake or where it went wrong, or we just need to know what happened, what went wrong, and how can we prevent this from happening again. So I feel like leading by example and, holding yourself accountable and practicing that every day and showing up for your team is so important.
You're so right. Modeling those behaviors yourself. What about you, Kinjal? Anything you would add to that?
Definitely. I think it's very important, adding to what Emily said, right? It's very important to make your team understand that it's important to be okay with whatever you know. I mean, as a leader, even I need to understand that it's okay to be not know it all person, but it's important as a whole with your team all together, completely, it all, like the team knows it all, and that's how it works. And you need to make yourself and your team know that as well, because that even that leads to trust, as we are talking about, right? Another thing is that's extrinsic motivations, or the intrinsic that comes from within, right? The motivations that you need to have, you need to be aware of your strengths, of your values, and stay true to them as we are talking about them. And the other motivations are the appreciation that usually the team gets, those kinds of things, it helps them to work hard and look for that, for those achievements, and appreciation in front of everyone. I guess that everyone likes, right? So I think that also helps. So
yeah, I love that. Believe it or not, we're approaching a time where we're going to open up to Q&A, as well as I think it would be great to share a little bit around how folks can find you after this is done. So maybe I'll take one last question, or give one last question to each of you before we open it up to questions around it's a simple one, but I think it's a probably one that everyone here is hoping to hear, which is, what advice would you give to these early stage founders as you reflect back on your own journey? Kinjal, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, definitely. I think first thing that I would like to tell everyone that it's okay, that whatever you are thinking you need to do, it's right. Even though you think that you don't know where to start, it's okay. It's just you need to start at some point. You need to talk with some mentors, some and different people, right? And eventually you will realize, you will understand how you need to change your strategies, how you need to work. You will fail, you will have some struggles, you will have some challenges that will pull you back and downwards position, right? But you need to just gather yourself and, move harder, work harder, and have your success. So I think it's very important to believe in yourself and have patience. It takes time. Everything, good things take time, right? So it's very important to keep reminding yourself of that, because at times when you are amidst chaos, amidst stress, at various levels, you start thinking in negative way. But it's very important to have patience and keep on working and persevere towards that. So I think
I love it. Awesome. Emily, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so important. I was just kind of like making notes as you were talking, because that's literally what I was about to say. I feel like on the flip side of that coin, though, it's also really important to kind of like manage your expectations. A lot of people have this like lofty view of what it means to be a founder or what it means to run a business. And, it's like being a parent, right? Like you picture the cute little baby and you're, getting the nursery ready. That's how I was when I started my business. I was like, oh, I got to go out and, get some cool stuff for my office. And I was just so excited by everything. And then the realness sets in and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, is this real? Is this like, am I okay? Like, am I crazy for doing this? Like, so I guess like, just trust in yourself. You will go through those periods of growing pains where you're kind of wondering like what you're doing. But as, to Kinjal's point, like, if you're doing what you want in your heart and you are staying true to your values and who you are, and you kind of remember like why you're doing this, that will ground you throughout your time, struggling, because it will happen. So yeah, manage your expectations. And then the other thing is like your goals can evolve over time. So you might have a vision for yourself going into your business. And it's totally okay if you decide that that's not for you. I think, people don't talk about that enough, but it's very common for entrepreneurs to kind of like just keep pivoting until they find what their true calling is. Or maybe you don't have a true calling. But either way, I think just exploring different, different avenues for yourself and kind of like hitting on all of your interests is totally okay. And I actually encourage that. So yeah, definitely take risks. Feel free to evolve and manage your expectations, because the hard moments will happen, but you will get through them. I can tell you, you will get through them.
Awesome. I love it. Luz, what about you?
There's a saying that says 92% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And of course, it's never ours, right? As entrepreneurs, you're like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, there's a reason that saying is there, statistic is there, because you could start off strong, but like Emily was saying, along the way, you'll falter, you'll fall, you're confused, you're this is all unknown territory. So I want to give you 3 tips that will support you in being an entrepreneur, especially for the first 5 years. The first one, I had the biggest struggle when they asked me, who is my ideal client? Because I was like, everybody, we all need EQ. Every single human being on this world, yay, kumbaya. But I kept facing over and over and over again the question, you can't serve everybody. And it didn't land until someone told me, you want to be in a room where 80% of the people in that room is ready to write you a check. Now, that's not every human being in this world. Who is that person who has believed in you, who needs your services and your skills and wants to write you a check right now for you to work with them? So that lit up the room for me, because now I knew who to target, number one. Number two, I hope everyone's been to a carnival. And when you go to a carnival, there's these games where there's balloons and you throw darts to pop the balloon. The ideal target is to pop the balloon and get the prize. I want to bring this an analogy forward, like proposals for a client. You need to know where you're throwing the dart. So it's not just about throwing the dart, because you can throw the dart here and the balloon is here. This is why knowing who your exact client is very important. And you need to throw a lot of darts. That way you know you're going to pop that balloon. I think one big mistake as entrepreneurs is we find one person that's excited and we're like, oh yeah, here's my proposal. And it didn't go through. And you're like, I can't believe that sale didn't go through. What am I going to do now? You need to throw a multiple darts in the right direction, because and then you're guaranteed to pop at least one balloon. That's the second one. And the third tip I want to give you is find your MVP, your most viable product. What is it that you can do today that will get you the fastest path to cash? What can you do right now that someone wants, that you know how to do, that doesn't require timing and metrics and measurements and testing or beta? And so what can you do right now for someone that they can give you an interaction with cash? And then you want their testimonial. And that's how you build and you become beyond the statistic of the 92 that fail within the first 5 years.
Oh my gosh, you ladies are amazing. That's such good advice across the board. I'm bringing it all in myself. One thing I will add is unsolicited advice from the moderator is it is never too early to operationalize your business. We've talked a lot about trust and inner trust and things like that today. But, as we get into the more practical tips that we've been hearing in this last section, take the time, write it down, operationalize your business, have a business plan, have a forecast, have structure, so that you can have the art and science working together for you to propel your business forward. Know where you're going, know your numbers, and so on. So that's my last little bit of unsolicited advice. So I'll go ahead and open it up and see if we get any questions from the group here. I'm going to kind of check the Q&A here. One from Sophia. Going back to having debate, can you share some norms and expectations for how to facilitate a healthy debate? I love it. Luz, maybe I'll start with you on that because you were talking about the norms.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sophia. So first off, as I said, you need to both have a commitment. Are you both open to hearing what is about to be said? Number one, are you willing to check yourself? Because it's not always about checking the other person, but you have to check yourself. Is your voice getting high? Are you getting defensive? Are you getting ready for a response? Or are you active listening? Do you have open body position? Are you willing to take in what the other person said? Now, they can give you whatever they have to say. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It could be a filtered thought, like what we were talking earlier from one of those inner dialogues, a perception they might be coming from, or it could be something that you yourself are not aware of. So be aware of that example. When you eat, you have to take a moment to chew your food and let the food process so that your body can receive the nutrients from that food. So take a moment and see what the other person is sharing with you. If you've both made a commitment to share, to both grow as individuals, then you can have trust and faith that this person is here for your highest good and vice versa. Last thing I want to share is compassion. I think we misdefine compassion. People say they could see someone homeless on the street and they have compassion for this person. But what happens when that person will become aggressive, will get in your face? Do you still hold the same compassion for this individual? Or do you feel now you have to be in a space of defense? Can we still maintain open-hearted compassion with healthy boundaries? And I think these are things that we could all cultivate.
I love that. That's a great response. I hadn't thought about the physical markers of being closed off during conversations. Very interesting. Yes, it's such an important point that it's not just the words we say, but our body language and our physical responses. I thought it was also really important what you said around going in with a mindset of being an active listener versus being ready to react. That's so critical. I think so often people think that I'm in the room, I'm here, so I'm listening, right? Versus
a kind of gaslighting. What do you mean? I haven't been talking to you? I talked to you. I said hello. So
right.
there's another study that talks about communication, and it says the highest form of communication is truly toward body language. So if you look at your body language, number one, and then the second runner up was tone. The same what you just said. I'm talking to you, I'm here, I'm listening. There's a tone there. And the question is, did I experience a tone from you? Yes. Then are we willing to dive a little bit deeper? Are you willing to not have that tone and really come to me again, heart-centered? Let's reset ourselves. Let's breathe and understand that I'm coming to you from the highest good for us to build together.
Intention. Awesome. Any other questions that we want to touch on before we transition to the next section? Awesome. Well, if one comes in while we're wrapping up, I can grab it. But otherwise, would you ladies like to share with the group how people can find you if they want to, LinkedIn, a website, anything like that? I'd love to make sure people know where to find you. Go ahead, Luz, and then we'll go Emily and then Kinjal. How about that?
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram. It's connect_with_Luz. I also have another Instagram called Clarity with Luz. Luz in Spanish means light. And for many years, I hated that name because no one around me knew how to pronounce it until I moved to the Philippines and they showed me again. It's all about shifting my perception. I recognize Luz means light and I helped give clarity. So Clarity with Luz is another Instagram.
Shining a light.
And you can find me on eqrefine.com. I have a lot of resources there that will support you in having difficult conversations, recognizing unconscious biases, and how to move forward, especially as a woman in workspaces. So eqrefine.com or in LinkedIn, Luz Gonzalez, EQ Refined.
Awesome. I love it. Emily, how about you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Emily DiGrazio. It's a little hard to spell, DiGrazio. You can also find me on my website, indigo.com. That's INDIEGOGH.com. I also have a page full of resources for people who might be starting a business. So indigo.com/resources has everything you need there. You can also follow along on Instagram. It's just @indigo. And I'm excited to connect.
Awesome. Kinjal.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you. And it was wonderful having this session with such amazing thoughts and, points. And along with that, you can always find me on LinkedIn, Kinjal Shah, Global Maven, or just username Kinjal Shah #6. You can visit me on www.globalmaven.us. So Maven actually means experts. So having a global team of experts. So that's why the name comes of Global Maven. And on Instagram as well, and Kinjal Shah. And other details are anyways there on the website, the company website. So
awesome. And finally, again, Sara Gupta, startwise.ly, start wisely, or LinkedIn, Sara Millis Gupta. I always try to post a number of articles or thought-provoking conversations on LinkedIn. So follow along or contribute. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you all. Thank you 3 Day Startup for hosting this conversation. I found it so inspiring. You ladies are amazing. And what a gift to this organization to have you with us today. So thanks to everyone.